Hello. Seems we're live at the moment. Yeah, we're gonna keep the podcast rolling. Boxing gossip. Tom is unavailable today due to work commitments. Seems we're live at the moment. Give me 2 seconds. Let me mute myself. Yeah, we're gonna. And yeah, hello everyone. I've seen a few new subscribers jump on. Much appreciated. I'm joined with Paul at the moment, waiting for Irish Tom and Jay to jump on. Sherry won't be able to make it today due to her family commitments. So yeah, we'll rock and roll with what we have at the moment, and hopefully the other guys jump on very shortly. We'll talk about last week's action, Lara versus Hurd, unlikely fight of the year candidate. James DeGale, is he back to his best? How does everyone think he performed? Little bits of news for this week. Golovkin's opponent, is the event going to be cancelled? A lot of questions there. AJ versus Wilder, the 12 and a half, infamous take it or leave it deal at this current moment in time. And Povetkin being mandated by the WBA as an ex-mandatory challenger to Anthony Joshua. And, little bits and pieces of other news. Not too much to talk about this weekend in terms of boxing. It's very, very light. But next weekend, we have a bit of a bumper card in terms of UK, Sky Sports and Box Nation bills. So, I'm going to bring in Paul. Hopefully, Paul's watched the action at the weekend and we can ask him some questions and sit and see how he saw the fights going at the weekend. Paul, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Can you hear me all right? Yeah.
Yeah. I've turned you up. I've turned your volume up. So hopefully it should be good. It sounds crystal clear to me. So fire ahead, mate.
I'm using those earbuds anyway. Everybody said that it sounded all right after I switched
Yeah,
it on.
sounds good.
So I thought if it's not broke, don't fix it. So all good.
Yeah, go for it, mate. So I just want to ask, James DeGale obviously fought Caleb Truax in a rematch, won back his IBF super middleweight world title. How do you think he done? Or also maybe the Lara versus Hurd after you discussed that would be interesting as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, DeGale retains his title. But still, for me, I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed with DeGale, even though, I did think he won the fight, but I thought he kind of just about won the fight. Very dirty, very sort of he was headbutting a lot, holding a lot. He moved more, and he was better defensively. But I don't know, I don't know how much I've got to say about DeGale. He's just kind of there's been some suggestion. Been some suggestion for a while that he might be a guy that just sort of has peaked already, even though he's not an old guy. But he's been in a lot of wars, and I don't know if the Durrell fight was the one before. It was Rodriguez. Who was the guy before it? I forget the guy's name now. Where he looked.
Which one? The fight before which? Durrell?
I think it was just before Durrell.
Gonzalez, Brandon Gonzalez.
Brandon Gonzalez. That sort of James DeGale was just about the best I've seen James DeGale. And for me, he seems like he's just kind of gradually declined from there. And I think the Jack fight took quite a bit out of him. The Butte fight took a bit out of him, and I don't know. I think he's just on the decline. I don't think there's, he had all the motivation in the world to come back. I mean, what did you think, Jed? Were you impressed with the guy?
I'll be honest. I watched both fights. I watched both fights since, and didn't think there was much between the two in terms of actual, boxing quality and boxing skill. DeGale was obviously the classy operator, but he hasn't shown it in the last two fights. He's been content to sit on the ropes, get bullied, get roughed up by Caleb Truax. And I watched Boxing Gossip's video. I watched Tom's video, and very very knowledgeable insight. And he just hit the nail on the head. And he said, there's a very, very paper thin and wafer thin level between these two guys, and James DeGale probably is on the slide. I've seen a couple of people in the chat just mentioning that he's probably a short fighter now, which I'd probably agree with, because he has not looked the same fighter since definitely the Jack fight, but I'd say maybe even the Andre Dirrell fight. Even in that fight, he done a good number in the early rounds against Andre Dirrell, but in the later rounds he kind of faded. He had enough in the bank because of the knockdowns to win the fight, but he's really regressed since. And if he's kind of just pushing by on the Caleb Truax level, I wouldn't want to see him with a George Groves or a Gilberto Ramirez, or those sort of guys at the top end of their game, even a Chris Eubank Jr. maybe. So I don't know. How do you see those fights going at 168? Any other top fights for DeGale at 168 or even 175? How would he fare? How would you kind of assess him at this moment in time?
Well, I mean, for me, but I think probably the best guy at 168 at the minute, even though he hasn't proved it yet, is David Benavidez. For me, he looks just really, really good. He's so fucking quick for a big guy. The hand speed is incredible. I just think he's got everything. Great jab, great footwork. Caleb Plant as well was at the weigh-in. I don't know if you guys saw that. He kind of started getting into it a little bit. I think he looks quite good too. You've got Gilberto Ramirez. I mean, he was also saying about fighting Baddy Jack at light heavy. I think that's. I think have I got this wrong? Is it his sister that manages him? Or am I just crazy here? I seem to remember James DeGale's manager is his sister. I could be wrong there. I think they need to be fucking talking some sense into this guy, because Hatman has been saying it for a while as well. He suffers with a ridiculous sort of amount of overconfidence, which I do agree with. I mean, you have to be confident as a fighter, but when your confidence sort of ignores real obvious stuff, and prevents you from sort of making the necessary improvements that you need to make, and necessary adjustments, in fact, that you need to make, I think it becomes a problem. And I agree with you. I don't think there was a lot in the two fights. Only maybe DeGale maybe moved a bit more. He held a lot as well on the inside, which prevented Truax from working much on the inside. And other than that, it was just kind of it wasn't the sort of okay, now this is the real DeGale back, and he's gonna sort of show the levels. Let's be honest, Truax was getting beat by guys at middleweight only 2 or 3 fights ago, and beat quite handily. This is a guy on the slide for me, DeGale, and I don't see him faring too well against any of them. Maybe Eubank Jr., because Eubank Jr. has kind of been found out a little bit, but even Eubank Jr. kind of if he, I think Eubank Jr. kind of froze in that Groves fight. I think the stage was too big for him. I think he kind of I think Eubank Jr. at his best when he's on the inside and stuff, I think he gives DeGale, this current version of DeGale, fits, man. I really do. I don't know where he goes from here, is the honest truth. I haven't got a clue. Which is weird to say, a guy that's just won his world title back, but that could be a blessing and a curse for him, actually.
Yeah, I think he may have maybe 1 or 2 big fights left in him. I think, what you were saying about Badou Jack at 175, I think that's career suicide. Badou Jack seems to be getting better and better, whereas DeGale seems to be getting worse and worse. So I guess we'll wait and see. Obviously, I don't know if he's going to be still working with Frank Warren as a promoter and carving out a path that way, but we'll see how that goes along. And yeah, all the best to him. But I think he needs to make his money in the next 1-2 fights and call it a day, because we don't want to see him get hurt in the sport. Paul, I'll come back to you. I'll bring in the famous Irish Tom to discuss James DeGale. Tom, you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly clear, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. How's it going, lads?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad, mate.
All good.
What do you reckon of James DeGale? What's your thoughts? Everyone's waiting to hear you, mate.
That's true. All 21 of us.
27 now.
27. Ah, yes. Sent a tweet out. That must have been it. All 7 followers. I thought he was all right. I had money on Truax by points at 6-1, which I thought was really insane value, but didn't come through. But close enough. You know, I think DeGale was probably the better fighter, and I think he deserved to win it. But you know, in fairness to him, it was a very bad cut he had, and a cut like that could easily, you know, take a round or two off you. You know, so I still think, you know, he's obviously a bit shot porn. But he is what he is. He boxes the same way all the time, you know. He used an awful lot of excessive movement on the back foot. It's kind of like what he does. He really runs nearly on the back foot a bit. And then no wonder he gasses. He uses so much superfluous footwork. But
McDonald, that he's a 15-round fighter, mate.
15-round fighter, that's right. I don't know if you watched it, like,
Jesus Christ, he bigs him up so much. 15-round fighter. James is a 15-round fighter. Jesus, does your head in.
I know, and I was watching it, and the only thing I could hear, because, you know, it wasn't that full for that fight, you know, it wasn't the headline fight, and the whole way through, all you could hear was Jim McDonald in the corner shouting, James, like constantly, throw the jab, James. Oh man, it was funny listening to it. It was just like having fucking Jim McDonald in your sitting room shouting at the telly. But look, James DeGale, he's made a lot of money. He's had a good career. He was two-time champion, won 4 or 5 championship bouts, took hard defenses on the road, total road warrior. You know, people love to slag him, I think. You know, a lot of these Eddie Hearn nut huggers love to slag him. And I think he's done brilliant because, you know, if you look at what he's done is he's shown loyalty to Jim McDonald. So he's shown loyalty to his trainer who he knows. And he's shown no loyalty to the money men. And to be honest with you, for me, that's like the perfect kind of way a fighter should do. Show no loyalty to the money men and loyal to the people who are around him and boxing him, who bring him up. And, you know, sometimes he can act a bit of a knob, but in general, like, he's put on good fights and he lays it all on the line. And like, when I'm watching a fighter, the number one thing I want to watch, that I like to watch, is that they show heart. And James DeGale has world levels of heart. How in the last round against Baddy Jack he didn't go down, I don't know. So it's like, I think James DeGale has done well. I think if I was him, I'd have one more big fight. I'd fight George Groves in a kind of a winner-takes-all final match. I'd expect to lose it. I'm sure he doesn't expect to lose it, but I'd expect him to lose it. And, you know, who cares? Get yourself £3 or £4 million for the final fight and out the door, because you don't want to be taking too much punishment.
Yeah, mate, you're spot on. I agree with that. I just don't want him to see. I don't want to see him get hurt or anything like that. So that's kind of the main thing. Quickly, before we go over to Paul, what do you make of Lara versus Hurd? Also, I know it's a bit of a weird one. I don't know if you've seen it. Sergio Mora for Alfredo Angulo at 168, and Adelaide Bird had another fucking stinker on the card, scoring it for Angulo. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that and the Lara and the Hurd fight.
Well, see, I think, do you remember that fella who was who scored the Ryan Burnett and what you call that fella when he won the title, the IBF?
Zakian? Or
no, the one before that.
Lee Haskins?
Lee Haskins. Remember he was fighting Lee Haskins?
You're on about the one where he got the names mixed, so he didn't know who was
That's
who.
right. Have you seen the glasses that Adelaide Bird wears? She wears these like bottle top glasses. So maybe she's actually a good judge, but she just mixes up the people altogether. So that's my theory. You know, she just mixed up Canelo and GGG by accident.
Yeah, color hair pretty much, but just give it.
I saw that at the Hurd fight.
Yeah,
Hurd's my man. You know,
I know you think he's one of the best at 154. So I thought I'd get your thoughts on it, mate.
Yeah, like, you know, he is a unit. Like, he is massive. And you know, the weirdest thing with him is if you look at him, his waist is tiny. His waist is like about, I wouldn't be surprised. I remember reading somewhere that, what do you call him? Bernard Hopkins had a 28-inch waist. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if this fella has a lower. I wouldn't be surprised if his waist is 27 inches or something. And his shoulders are fucking huge. And he's a unit, man. And he's got amazing stamina. People slag him off for being really bad defense. I don't think he's actually that bad. Like, you know, he if you look at him when he was in the close quarters with Lara, who's a slick boxer, when they were up close, he was landing just as much as Lara was. It's not like Lara was slicker than him on the inside. So I think he's got underrated defense, and he is like the juggernaut. He'll just keep coming and coming and coming, and you know, he's got a good chin. Lara hit him with an uppercut in the 6th round. You know, I fucking love a big, aggressive pressure fighter like that with skills. You know, for me, he's the new Margarito, and I think, like, I know Hatman has put out a video saying he thinks Charlo will school him, and I don't see it. You know, I don't see it. Not saying that he's going to beat Charlo, but it's definitely not an easy. That's another close fight. And for me, Hurd is the #1 154-pounder in the world at the moment. He's unified.
I'd pick Hurd. I'd pick Hurd, mate. I'll be honest, over Charlo. Charlo's obviously got a few knockouts early, hasn't he? The Charles Hatley one, the Erickson Lubin one. Lubin, obviously, you know, loads of people thought it would be a good fight, but he was very young, very inexperienced at the top level. So, you know, he got a first-round knockout of that, done well. But the Charles Hatley fight, I think he was coming off, you know, an 18-month layoff, maybe a 20-month layoff or something like that. So, you know, his last really meaningful fight was against Varnes, wasn't it? The Armenian guy who was supposed to be in contention for the Golovkin fight, and Nevada State actually rejected him. That was his most meaningful fight, and I thought he lost that fight, to be honest. So I think Hurd is not a similar fighter, but he has many different attributes that give Charlo at 154 a lot of problems.
Yeah, and like Jarrett Hurd, he's kind of come from nowhere. That's the other thing. Like, he's have you seen his box rec? Like, have you seen who he's fought? He kind of went from a really low level to fighting. Like, he went from fighting like fellas who were like 23 and 11 and 5 and 1 and 4 and 6, and then he just went and fought a 17 and 0 guy, a 13 and 0, a 35 and 3, a 24 and 1, a 33 and 3, and then Lara. So he's on a good run, man. He kind of went from fighting really shit level of people in 2015, and now he's just like, he's icing top guys. Like, he iced Austin Trout, and he fucking, if he had another minute in that final round, he probably would ice Erislandy Lara as well. So I just love that type of fighter. I just, you know, I love, you know, people slag off certain fighters' styles. You know, people make out the certain styles are better than other styles. Man, Margarito schooled and bet the crap out of Sergio Martinez, who was a top pound for pound guy, and he bet the shit out of Cotto as well. You know, and Hurd is one of these guys, and he's going to do some damage. And you know, loving it, absolutely loving it. Great fight.
Julian Williams also on the undercard, who lost to the bigger punching Charlo, who moved up to 160, and he's fighting in a few weeks. He's going to be he's mandatory for Jarrett Hurd's IBF belt. Any inkling and any thoughts on that? I don't know if you've seen Julian Williams before.
I haven't seen him. I didn't see the fight at the weekend, but I know who he is. Yeah, but like, that'd be a good fight. But Hurd is one of these guys who wants to unify everything. I'd love to see the Charlo fight next. That's the one I want to see. Imagine he beats Charlo, and then Liam Smith wins the title over here. right?
Oh, God.
Do you think Liam Smith will go for the big unification fight?
No chance, mate. No
Not
chance.
unless his name is Canelo and he's getting like about $2 million, $3 million.
I'll tell you that. He'd be shitting his pants because Jarrett Hurd is not one to be messed with by the looks of it. Paul, any thoughts on Lara versus Hurd? That outrageous scorecard by Adelaide Birds. Any other weekend action you want to discuss?
Well, I think Tom might be onto something with Bird's eyesight. I mean, like, I don't know what's wrong with her. If not, I was kind of singing Hurd's praises last week, and I don't know, Lara for me, kind of like, what was? Can anybody tell me why Lara decided to? I mean, I can only just assume that it really is what I've been suspecting for a while, was that his legs are just going, and he knows he can't move like that anymore, because I've never seen Lara fight like that. I've never. I mean, somebody might say, "Oh, I've been watching him for years, and he has fought like that before." I've never seen Lara sort of like stay in the pocket for so long and try and trade with the guy. It was a good fight, it was a good fight, but I kind of agree with Hatman on the I like Hurd, but I think in terms of, I think the thing is, he's so much bigger than pretty much everyone he fights. I think that plays a huge part. I do think he's slow. I don't think his defense is as bad as people make out, but it's also not great. He does get hit quite a lot. I think, Charlo is as big. He might not be quite as big, but he's bigger. He's bigger than a lot of the guys he's fighting. He's bigger than Lara. And I do think Charlo's a much better boxer. I think he's got much faster hands. I don't think that would be as easy. Although I do think Hurd had beat Julian Williams. Julian Williams didn't look good at the weekend to me. He didn't look good. He got hit a hell of a lot. Did you see that one yet?
Sorry, which one?
J-Rock. Did you see?
Yeah, I watched the fight against Nathan Gallimore, was it? So
yeah.
I don't think he looked spectacular, to be honest. I didn't really give him too much of a chance against the bigger punching Charlo when he lost in the 5th round for the IBF last time, and obviously he's come back. Gallimore's not the fighter that shot the bigger punching Charlo is, but if J-Rock was going to do any sort of significant. Anything significant at 154, I thought he would have done a real number on Gallimore. But I think Hurd. I'll be honest. I think Hurd would probably walk through him.
So do I. I mean, Hurd. The one thing with Hurd, he just does not stop coming. He's got really good output. He's clearly got a decent chin. I mean, some of the shots Lara hit him with, and I know Lara's not, he's not Triple G, is he? But I think Hurd. I think it's Hurd and Charlo. That's the fight at 154 for me.
Yeah, I'd probably have to agree. That's probably the big one at 154. They may not generate the biggest money, but in terms of division and skills and everything on the line,
Paul.
But yeah, I mean, Hurd is definitely the top guy. Sorry, Tom, just to say this, I agree. Hurd is definitely, he has to be called sort of like the number one guy there right now. He has to be, because he's unified the title. He's unified, and to be fair, Lara kind of like has been seen as the number one guy at 154 for quite a while, and he's just gone and beaten him. So I don't see any other sort of like anybody else that could really stake a claim for being the top guy at the minute, other than Hurd. Go on, Tom.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say that Lara, I think, the thing is, like, he was up against a guy with a huge, bigger reach, so he couldn't really stay on the outside. And, he might as well get inside and try and land punches. And I think his feet probably aren't as good as they were. But it's like, the thing is that, Jarrett Hurd has got excellent footwork. Man, he does what Triple G does. When Triple G that takes a little step and runs after a guy?
Yeah.
He was doing that all night.
Yeah.
And, like, to actually be up against a guy with pristine footwork and fast feet who's coming after you and big, you're just not going to be able to run on the outside the whole time. Just don't think it's feasible. I really don't. And the thing is, Lara's an excellent boxer, but Hurd's pressure is so intense that he wasn't able to do it. You know what I mean? So it'll take an exceptional boxer to be able to fight him on the outside, I think. And Lara is a very good boxer. Lara, you can make a case that Lara is undefeated in all his losses. Who did he lose to? Williams, where he got rolled. People can make the case. I don't think he won that fight the weekend, but you can make the case he won it. You make the case he won Canelo. I think there are 3 losses.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying about the reach, but he's been in with guys with longer reach. I'm pretty sure, Austin Trout,
but not pressure though, like that though. Not pressure
like that. But he's still, even when he's the guy has more reach, he still seems to move a hell of a lot more. I just think there were signs definitely of and to be expected. What is he? What's Lara now? He's got to be 35, has he? 36, something like that. He's got to be. Let me have a look. Yeah, he's 35. He's 35. So it's to be expected, but yeah, I'd like to see Hurd versus Charlo. I think that's a good fight. I would pick Charlo to beat Hurd. I think just the speed difference and the fact that he wouldn't be able to bully Charlo in the same way as he's bullied a few other people might be telling in that fight. But good fight still.
Probably good fights for them at 160 if they move up, or one of the winner or loser moves up and that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's always good fights for these guys. I think some of these fighters that maybe have the style of a Jarrett Hurd or maybe even a Charlo. They're not not explosive, but they're there. They've got skills and they'll always be in entertaining fights. I guess that's the main thing. We'll move on to the news section. There's a fair bit of news from this weekend. From this week. We'll start with Golovkin. There's rumors that he's going to be fighting Spike O'Sullivan. Shout out Spike. And there's other rumors that Varnes was supposed to fight him. That the Nevada State Athletic Commission have rejected it. There's other rumors that there's possibly a cancellation of the event. They've moved the event from, as far as I know, but there might be a cancellation. What are you guys' thoughts on it, Irish and Paul?
Well, I heard all of the things you were saying. Look, I think. I mean, when I first heard Spike O'Sullivan, I was like, "Fucking what?" But when you think about it, this Canelo suspension is only going to be a short one. Let's have it right. They're not going to suspend him for 2 years or anything. Too many people stand to make too much money out of him. I was actually surprised they suspended him at all, to be completely honest. And I think Golovkin was too. I think when Golovkin opened his mouth about about the failed test and whatnot, I think even he thought kind of they're not gonna, it's not gonna affect the fight. Let me just be a bit come across like I should come across. I think despite now that I've sort of thought about it for a while, I think the O'Sullivan fight or somebody not too dangerous is obvious. I think they're still going to want to try and hold out for that Canelo fight in September or whenever it is. There are, as you said, Jet, there's been a rumor of that he won't fight on Cinco de Mayo at all, and that they're trying to make the unification with Billy Joe Saunders. I think that's probably unlikely. I think O'Sullivan's a good shout. He'll get his ass handed to him, of course, but it's he's Irish. There's an Irish contingent, not the same amount as there are Mexicans, but there are a lot of. So the fact that he's Irish will get a little bit of more support than it would do if he was just American or just English or whatever. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of Irish in the US, so plus he's fought over there recently, O'Sullivan, hasn't he? He was on the Billy Joe Saunders Lemieux undercard. I forget the kid's name now. I forget He knocked the kid out.
Yeah, Douglas, Antoine Douglas.
Yeah, Antoine Douglas. Yeah, he knocked the kid out. So, yeah, I mean, it's not as ridiculous as it first sounds. Like, you know, we'll see. I would have expected some sort of announcement maybe by now, but hopefully we'll get one soon.
Yeah, I guess maybe the silver lining is Spike will get a half decent payday. He'll get like another world title shot, and yeah, I guess maybe that's the good thing to come out of it. But I don't really want to be seeing Spike O'Sullivan, who lost 12 rounds to 0 against Billy Joe Saunders, get run roughshod by Gennady Golovkin. So that's kind of my take on that. Irish, any thoughts on your fellow Irish
compadre?
Yeah,
I think Spike deserves the fight. He's excellent on social media. He's good crack. He tells jokes. He tells jokes about his mother-in-law a lot. So I don't see why he shouldn't be able to get a fight against one of the best pound for pound guys
on Cinco de Mayo.
And on Mayo, everyone Irish and his Irish brethren are here to stay.
Irish takeover.
Absolutely.
Irish takeover.
Irish takeover.
I love that, mate. Fucking love that. Yeah, what I was going to say. Well, there's a couple of other bits of news. It's been a bit of a lighter week, but there are bits and pieces that Paul's actually thrown in. The biggest one is probably Deontay Wilder being offered this £12.5 million take it or leave it deal by
dollar.
Well, yeah, even dollars then.
Well, I've heard it reported both ways. I'm not sure which it was.
Yeah, but the main guy to break it was Adam. The main guy to break it was Adam Abramovitz.
Yeah,
he's like writer for Ring, and he said dollars.
So, yeah, okay.
That's where the leak came from.
But you guys fire ahead.
So Paul,
to hear you guys' thoughts.
Paul, do you remember when Canelo offered GGG a flat fee? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Did you remember? What was your opinion then?
My opinion then was that it was a fucking joke. He shouldn't take it.
And why did they offer it like that, do you reckon?
Why did they offer it like that? Well, they offered it like that because you never know, the guy might fucking take it, and they're promoters. They're fucking greedy cunts. They want to make as much money for themselves as they can. Probably.
You really think that? Like, you offer somebody a really, really shit offer, you think they're expecting them to take it?
No. So So what you're suggesting is this is a way of this is a duck, is it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, a take it or leave it shitty low ball offer. What would you call it? A take it or leave it low ball offer.
But do we have?
Would you call that like negotiating in good faith? Would you call that an offer that was commensurate to the magnitude of the fighter?
But do you know what makes me laugh about this? The stance you're taking here, and I don't know why you've chose to just not talk about the issue and like make it about something like this. But
what have I chosen not to talk about? Stop talking about shite now.
Well, no, hold on a minute. A few weeks ago, when we were all talking about like Deontay Wilder's sort of like 50-50 or nothing offer, you come up and you went, "Oh, that's just a starting point. He doesn't really mean that." So but now there's something that's equally as fucking ridiculous. Oh, there's he fucking ducking the fight. Tom, your bias is so fucking clear here, mate. Just talk about the fucking situation as you see it, and fucking don't get into this, because I'll just ice you, mate, if we start getting into this ridiculous fucking.
Seriously, so you won't apply the same logic you applied. You won't apply the same logic to that you applied to Canelo to AJ.
I didn't apply that
essentially.
Logic
You'll have two separate ones.
I didn't apply that logic to Canelo. I didn't say when Canelo was.
We can listen back. We can listen back.
Wait, guys. Let me add something in for you guys to digest and think about and bicker amongst yourselves. In sort of Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua's sort of defense, maybe. And play devil's advocate.
No defense.
No defense. But no. Listen, hit me.
Irish is just going to talk you down now. He's just going to talk you down now.
Is 10 million more than Deontay Wilder probably would have ever made. Over 10 mil. So wouldn't it be in his interest to take it? I know there's a potential to make an $80 million or $80 million gate or pound gate, but wouldn't it be in his best interest to do that or come back to the negotiating table and counter if he hasn't already done so? What do you guys think about that instead of?
Okay.
I mean, the first
like
thing...
let me talk for a minute. Let me talk for a minute, right?
Go on, sir.
Right. Like, you know, if this was a real negotiation, if it was an actual real negotiation, you're talking about a unified belt, right? You know, when you pay 25% for your mandatory, okay?
So do you think it's just a media stunt, Irish?
Sorry?
Do you think it's just a media stunt then?
Yeah, this is what I think it is. So like it was with GGG, is that you offered them a take it or leave it because you're the A side that's so low, you know they can't accept. So therefore, you can say, we offered him, he didn't take it, he doesn't want the fight. While in reality, everybody who knows really about boxing knows that they offered him an offer that is way too low for what he's worth. You know, for example, like everybody knows that Deontay Wilder versus AJ is a way bigger fight than Parker versus AJ. Simple as. Parker was not known in America. America is the biggest boxing market in the world. Okay, so Deontay is one of the. It is an American. You know, he's not a superstar thing, but he's a major American fighter. You know, one of the big American fighters. So to offer him a percentage now, if people are talking about this being $100 million fight, maybe that's too big. Maybe that's small. Let's say it's $100 million for just for argument's sake. They're offering them 12.5%, right? So they're offering half of what a mandatory would get. So if Pulev was to fight him, Pulev would get a 25% cut. Okay. Now, so like that's just putting it into like if it was a real negotiation, when Wilder comes out and he says he wants 50, that's like haggling. But if I go like if Wilder doesn't go out, the equivalent of Wilder saying like he wants what they offered him, he would be saying I want 80%. That's nearly like the equivalent of what they've just come out and done. They offered a 12.5% split. Yeah, everybody knows that's rubbish, and they say it's take it or leave it. So like, I mean, if it take it or leave it, that implies that they're not negotiating right now. And
I mean,
anything else
to be honest though, when Wilder said the 50-50, he said 50-50 with the fight doesn't happen. That's exactly the same as take it or leave it. What I would say is I think it's, you know, at this point it's just a rumor. At this point it's just a rumor. Nobody has.
It's not a rumor.
Well, it is a rumor.
It's not a rumor.
It's a fucking guy on Twitter.
It's not a rumor.
What I've heard.
No, Eddie Hearn's come out and confirmed it.
When?
Just go look at all the Eddie tweets. He's been in a Twitter discussion with Adi from Boxing Talk or whatever. You know, it's out there.
Well,
and Hearn came out.
He's actually admitted that, has he?
Yeah, and Hearn came out and said that Joseph Parker got half of what was reported in the newspapers. So for all these people talking about all the money, probably Eddie Hearn probably slips numbers out there, but it's way below. So the papers reported Parker made 13 million. And now Eddie Hearn is saying he made half of that. So maybe 6.5, 7 million.
Well, okay. Well, what I will say then is if that's true and Eddie Hearn has made an offer of 12.5 million to Wilder, I think that's a fucking joke. I think it's an absolute fucking joke.
Well, it is a total joke. Now, there's one thing like it's a you know, offering 12.5% is like, you know, if we look at the negotiations, Wilder has come down from 50. He said he'd take 40%, right? And their counter to the 40% is 12.5%. That, like, to me, that's just basically they won't fight. That fight's not going to happen next. It would guarantee will not happen next.
Well, Povetkin, my next point was Povetkin's been mandated by the WBA and said, well, his Andre Rybinski, his wealthy promoter, has come out and said they're pushing for the fight next. So do you think that fight will be next?
Well, I mean, that point that you just made, Jet, I mean, what that basically means is AJ has to fight either Povetkin or Wilder next. There's no other possibility. The only way he can get out of the Povetkin fight is to either drop a bout or reunification.
Pay step aside. I think he can pay step aside.
Or he can pay step aside. Yeah, but I don't think.
I don't think that'll happen
accept
because
step
the
aside.
Russians are ridiculously fucking filthy rich.
Yeah, I don't think that'll
Yeah, I
happen.
know.
Povetkin's getting too old. Rybinski's got fucking money out the wazoo. And look, I think that makes it more likely that the Wilder fight happens personally, because I think Povetkin is definitely seen as a big fucking risk. A big risk. If you look at, it doesn't matter about the size.
It's a way smaller risk.
Oh, it's a smaller
way
risk
smaller
than
risk,
Wilder.
Paul.
It's a smaller risk than Wilder. Yeah, but it's not so small a risk that you can just like. Because if you imagine, like, I don't think they want the AJ train to be derailed at this point. And I think they might look at this and say, well, look, we can either like risk it being derailed by Povetkin, or we can risk it being derailed for a fucking £100 million fight with Wilder. I just think that makes it slightly more likely. I think it's still probably unlikely that the Wilder fight happens. But definitely, I think, you know, like, you can't say that when Wilder says 50-50 or the fight doesn't happen, that's just a tactic. But when Eddie says 12.5 or blah, 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 well, that's him ducking the fight or whatever. The two things are exactly the same. It happens.
I don't think they're...
Well, they are. 50,
I don't think they're equivalent.
50,
I don't think they're
nothing.
equivalent, Paul.
50-50 or nothing, right, is a ridiculous thing for Wilder to say. If you look at how much they bring to the table in terms of market value and stuff, it's a ridiculous thing to say. And
but
the fact that, let me finish, Tom. The fact that he said, "Oh, the fight doesn't happen," is exactly the same. It's put in a sort of like a brick wall there, the same way as 12.5 take it or leave it is put in a brick wall there. It's exactly the same fucking thing. They're two ridiculous, ridiculous stances. One of which you said, "Oh, it's only a negotiating tactic," and the other one you come out and condemned. I mean, like, come on, man.
Well, I think yes,
like
okay.
Be consistent.
I am being
Tom.
consistent. I am being consistent.
You're
right?
not, mate.
Because one of them. Well, let me talk. Because one of them, right, is close to what people think the real number should be. Okay, and one of them is a piss take. Now, which one of them is a piss take, do you think? 50-50. When most people online on Twitter are saying 60-40.
Both
right?
are piss take.
That's the kind of
50-50.
No, I'm saying 50-50 is pretty close to 60-40. That's like what you do in haggling. But like if we take like 12.5 to 40 is just like a piss take.
But, yeah, but I don't think
one of them is like a piss take to me.
Yeah,
and then, you know, that's the way I look at it.
I don't think 60-40 is accurate either. I think it's more like it should be closer to sort of 30-35. Because if you look at
I'll tell you
AJ
why
AJ has 3 of the bouts. AJ, if you look at
that means nothing.
If you look at how much, of course it does.
It doesn't mean anything.
Okay, so what means something then? What does mean something then?
I'll tell you what means
how
something.
Much they bring
is
to the
like
table
so. For example, why
value? How much money?
Yeah, just let me talk.
Yeah,
let me talk.
That's what makes.
Let me talk.
Difference.
Let me talk.
The
big difference. No, well, you're always talking over me, and you complain that I always talk over you. Well, you're the dominant talker.
You
now,
do. Go on.
I don't. I try and get my word in. Now, if we look at, say, somebody like Joseph Parker, the reason why he will get a lot less than Wilder as a percentage is because he's got no big home market. If this becomes a pay-per-view and it becomes a pay-per-view in America too, Wilder will be able to bring in a huge amount of money compared to what Joseph Parker was.
Why?
So like AJ can't, at the moment, let me just finish. At the moment, AJ can't do a pay-per-view in America. Pay-per-view, if he put like his fight on pay-per-view now and they try to pay-per-view it in America, it would earn nothing. But if Wilder was pay-per-view in America, it was a Wilder fight, that would get pay-per-views in America. So Wilder brings a massive market compared to someone like Joseph Parker who's coming from fucking New Zealand. He might as well be coming from Ireland. Makes no difference. Tiny piece of piss. When you're coming from America, that brings a massive market.
You're wrong.
All right, it's the smallest market, is it? Is it smaller in Ireland?
No.
Is the American market smaller in Ireland? Whoa! Is that what I heard?
you going to let us speak or what? Right. So you're saying he brings a huge market. Why is it then that none of his fights so far have been huge markets? The Stavern fight, there was fucking seats galore. It was only about 70% full or whatever it was. Even the Ortiz fight didn't do a huge amount. So what are you basing this huge fucking market value that he's bringing because he's an American fighter? He's not even that popular in America, mate. What are you
He's one of the most popular American fighters. He is one of the most popular American fighters.
Of course he's not.
Like,
he doesn't even
sell
out his own town.
What I think, Paul,
who does in America, Paul?
What I think Irish is saying is that the market in America is substantial, and that's probably why Wilder will bring in substantially more than Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua probably think he will. But I guess we're slightly, digressing and going off track. But what I do think is prevalent is that, maybe Eddie Hearn is not keen on making that Joshua fight, that Wilder fight. Maybe because there's a big threat there. Wilder is a big puncher. He's unbeaten. He holds a belt. If Joshua was to take a loss, I think the aura around AJ, I wouldn't say it completely dissipates, but it does. It definitely, the aura that he has definitely takes a hit, similar to Chris Eubank Jr. With his loss against George Groves and Billy Joe Saunders. I think his credibility maybe will take a bit of a hit, but that will be on Hearn. I think that's maybe the one to concentrate on, whether Hearn or maybe Luke DeBella, who's supposed to be Wilder's promoter, actually want the fight. They're all talking a good game, but whether or not they want the fight is another deal.
Can I say something, Chad?
Go for it, mate.
Sorry to interrupt. I hate having these fucking business arguments. I fucking hate it. I hate it on Twitter. All these fucking idiots on Twitter talking about it. From my point of view, I don't care if Wilder gets 45% or 28%. I swear to God, I don't give a fuck, right? But what I really dislike is people as in the way that I see this happening is a pure indicator from AJ and Hearn's side is that they don't want this fight next. And I'll bet money that this fight won't be next, Paul. I'll bet any amount of money with you, right? And the reason why is that they are being disingenuous all the time with respect to the deals that they're offering Wilder and all their communications with it. And to me, it's just plain as day. Just like it was plain as day with Canelo offered the flat fee that GGG would never take it. It's just plain as day. And what they're doing exactly the same tactics that Canelo and Golden Boy did. Because they're sending them a message, and they'll know when they offer them this that they're not interested in the fight. And they might do it later on. But that's what annoys me about it so much. Is that I can guarantee you they don't want that fight, and it will not be made next. And that's what annoys me. I don't give a damn whether Wilder is worth 45 or 25%. I think that fight won't be made. It's easy to make a fight. Everybody knows what would need to be made. Wilder would have to get substantially bigger percentage than Parker got, and he'd have to get a substantially bigger percentage than a mandatory would get. Okay. So, that's just the reality of it. If Povetkin's going to get 25% of a big AJ fight, Wilder should be getting a lot more than that because he's got one belt, he's got a big market, and he should get more than the last unification because it's obviously 1 and 2. And to me, that's just plain obvious. And this offer is like a piss take offer. And we'll see if anything gets made. But I'll have a bet with any amount of money with anybody who wants that this AJ fight will not be next with Wilder. That will not be next. And this is what we're seeing now is just the politics in the middle of it. But we're seeing all these people fucking denying that it's saying, oh, it's a reasonable offer or it doesn't do this. It's an absolute bullshit offer, and I don't even think it's negotiation. Wait, I'm not finished. I don't think it's negotiating in good faith. I think if it was like, you don't negotiate like that if it's in good faith. That fight could be made in the morning. Everybody knows what type of percentage it should probably be. Somewhere probably between 33 and 40%. It'd be made in the morning. In the morning if they wanted to do it. But they don't.
Right. Are you finished now, Tom? Who
am.
is saying that it's a reasonable offer? Because I don't know. I haven't heard anybody saying that's a reasonable offer. What I've heard people saying is it might be a negotiation tactic. I haven't heard anybody saying it might be a reasonable offer. It's a reasonable offer.
Loads of people on Twitter. Just go on boxing Twitter. Loads of people.
Okay, well then they're idiots. I also don't think it will happen next. I think it probably won't happen next. I've got less of a problem with that than some people, though. You know, would I like to see that fight next? Yeah, absolutely. Am I surprised that AJ hasn't gone from one unification to another unification to another unification, one after the other? No, like, fucking fighters are doing that all the time. Like, why is anybody surprised by this? Why?
Well, what I want to say is, fuck Povetkin, because he's a drug cheat. So
yeah,
I'd rather see.
I'm with you on that, Jet.
Yeah, I just want to see the big fights, man. I'm not saying Povetkin versus AJ is not a big fight, but you want to see the best fights in the sport. Wilder versus AJ, Tyson Fury when he's fit versus AJ, Tyson Fury versus Wilder. That's the fights you want to see. You don't want to see the Povetkins of this world get a world title shot off the back of beating Johan Duhaupas juiced up. So yeah, just fuck Povetkin.
What the fuck, Jet? Tyson Fury is just as big a juicer
Yeah, well,
as
I'm not talking about Fury.
Yeah, so we shouldn't separate Tyson Fury from Povetkin. They're exactly the same.
I'm talking about who's a better fighter though. Who's better?
No,
Fury.
Well, I mean, if they're both back, if they're both back and off the juice, then I think you know they're both top level fighters, and you know I think Povetkin's not a bad name to have on your resume if you're AJ. Povetkin's only ever been beaten by Vladimir Klitschko. Let's not forget that. This is a top fighter. So I don't know. I'm more of a glass half full type of guy. Everybody seems to be sort of like, well, if I don't get exactly what I want, it's all shit and blah blah blah. Boxing fans are very sort of like negative, very miserable about things. So we don't get the Wilder fight, but we get AJ versus Povetkin. Am I going to cry about that? No. Would I like to see the Wilder fight? Yeah, of course. It's clearly the top two guys in the division. I'd love to see that fight.
I'll be honest.
I'm not going to cry if it's not made. You know.
Yeah, I also get where you're coming from. I get where Tom's coming from, but I'd rather see Jarrell Miller or someone like that get the fight. You know, someone who's I'm not saying Jarrell Miller's a better fighter than Povetkin. He maybe just he deserved the opportunity. The style matchup is good. Povetkin's a very short heavyweight. And, he's obviously had drug scandals in the past. I'm not going to link this to Fury. Fury is a separate entity. I know what Irish Tom was saying earlier, but I'm going to just leave that at the door. That's another story for another day. But Povetkin, I think he leaves a lot of the boxing fans, with a sour taste in their mouth. He's, he had a good win against Price. I'm not saying it's not the best win, but got a devastating knockout win. But he's not someone I'd like to see personally in the ring, especially getting a world heavyweight title shot on a huge payday.
I mean, look, I kind of like, I hate I hate agreeing with Irish for any fucking reason, but I'm going to have to on this one particular point. Fury, for me, leaves just as bad of a taste in my mouth for the simple fact that he definitely also failed the drug test. And look, I don't know. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. None of us fucking have a clue. We're just a bunch of idiots sitting here talking on a fucking podcast, right?
No,
but what I would say is the way Tyson Fury seems to have lost this fucking weight, for me, is highly fucking suspect. It's happened very, very quickly. A hell of a lot of it, very, very quickly. And for somebody with the things in his past that he's got, I don't see how you can look at that as anything other than a bit suspect.
Very possible, mate. Very possible. But
one thing, Chet, Jarrell Miller also is a drug cheat.
Oh, he is?
He got caught with drugs as well.
Okay. Yeah. Everyone's a cheater.
What, PEDs?
Yeah.
everyone in boxing is a cheat, as you would say. Maybe I remember from one of the early shows you said around 75% of professional boxers are cheaters. So that one always rings in my ear. So I'll give you that, mate. Maybe from one drug to another. That one's this one's debate. Floyd Mayweather has said he wants Gervonta Davis to face Lomachenko in their respective next fights. What do you guys think and make of that? Me and Paul had a bit of a chat off air, but any thoughts to add on that?
Well, I mean, like Tank's been sort of like he's been bad mouthing Floyd a bit on Twitter, hasn't he? Look, I mean, I think Gervonta Davis is an emotionally unstable guy. I really do. The way he sort of like missed weight and then started acting up in the ring in that last fight, and then he goes on. You know, anybody that describes his world title shot as a setup, you know, they tried to set me up. Sort of like delusions of grandeur seem to be creeping into some of these tweets and stuff. And I just, you know, I don't want to see a fight in which one guy does not believe he can beat the other guy. And that is what I firmly believe about Tank. I don't think he believes he can fight. He can beat Lomachenko. And I think rightly so. I think Lomachenko absolutely is levels above him and schools him at this point. He's only a young kid. I think this is just Floyd sort of like saying, okay, you want to give it, you know, you want to try and trash me on Twitter. Well, here we go. Well, fucking throw you to the wolves properly. That's what I think.
Irish, any thoughts on Davis versus Lomachenko possibly next in their next fights?
Not going to happen.
Yeah, I said that to Paul, mate. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're just kind of trying to keep Gervonta Davis's name a bit relevant, and maybe keep Floyd in the spotlight with the MMA talk and that sort of stuff. It just creates a bit of noise for them. I guess that's the main thing. Kind of the last bit of news, maybe not the best end of the news section is Paul Butler has been assigned a world title fight for the IBF, the vacant IBF belt that Ryan Burnett actually vacated due to mandatory obligations. He'll be fighting Emmanuel Rodriguez on the Hey Bellew undercard. Any thoughts on Tesco Joe's protege?
Tesco Joe.
Yeah, well, he has Tesco Joe in his corner, doesn't he? Jesus. Can't deal with it. Any thoughts on that or
Warjet? I've got nothing.
Yeah, Irish.
I'm really looking forward to that fight.
Yeah, I know you will. That kind of wraps up the news section. And to be honest, that kind of wraps up the show. There's not really anything else to discuss in terms of next week's action. I think the only fight that kind of caught my eye was the Blandamura versus Murata fight for the regular 160-pound WBA fake title. So that's kind of the only one. I think that's on a Friday or something like that. So there's nothing really else this weekend. I think next weekend is a couple of cards, and we have the Enigma that is Amir Khan next week, and Carl Frampton, one of Irish Tom's associates, fighting Anita Donaire for the WBO interim title. Anything else that anyone else wants to add? Irish Tom or Paul, anything you guys want to discuss, get off your chest, feel free.
Yeah, I have a lot I want to get off my chest, like the bra I'm currently wearing.
Oh, God.
But
Irish finest featherweight.
No, apparently there's a big press conference tomorrow with Frank Warren. I wonder what's that going to be about. So interesting.
Well, as long as the boards don't fall behind Uncle Frank, we'll have an inkling as to how good it will be, because his press conferences don't tend to end very well in terms of the production quality. So hopefully
it might be a press conference about a fight that's not yet made but might happen.
Well, I think it's going to be a press conference about our friend, a certain tall chap that was in the BT Sports studios yesterday. Apparently, signing with him. That's what I think. Remember, you heard it here first.
Exclusive on the Jet pod and the Irish takeover team. This is the exclusive news. So make sure you bookmark this and stay tuned for future reference.
Yeah.
Paul, anything to add?
Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, it always is when Irish and Paul come together and have a chat. Love it. I love it.
It's all in good. It's all in good spirits. I love him really. He's a
anyone who's viewing and has any unsavory things to say, fuck you all. So I just want.
Can I just say one thing as well? Is that like I really hate AJ fanboys, in particular Paul, and that he's going to watch himself. I'm going to be in Coventry in the next few weeks, Paul.
As well. I was really nice to you then as well.
I'm going to be in Coventry.
Become Irish FBI on Paul. He'll be watching every movie.
Fuck you now.
I have a 4x2 with some nails sticking out of it, Paul. I'm going to be wandering around the centre of Coventry looking for you.
Well, you don't need to wander around, mate. Just give us a text and I'll send you the address. No problem.
And there we go. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up, call it a day. We've discussed last week's action and the news. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed it. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe to Paul's channel. Is Abstract Boxing and stuff, if I'm correct. Abstract with a Z in the middle. And everyone follow the guys on Twitter. Much appreciated. Subscribe to both channels. Boxing Gossip as well. He'll be back next week. We'll be back next week discussing not much action, but hopefully we're having another war between Irish and Paul. And on that note, enjoy, guys, and speak to everyone soon. Have a lovely evening.
Yeah. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday.
Au revoir.